You know, when I moved down to Austin, we went to one of your AA meetings on Bee Caves Road, and we met Jimmy Vaughn.
Yeah, we saw Jimmy Vaughn at an AA meeting, and it was actually at the Northland AA group. He came I believe it was Tuesday night. We all went there, and at that time there was probably 70 or 80 people at a time went there, and there was different people there. There was lawyers, judges, musicians, and so yeah, we did see them, and it was not uncommon to see somebody famous at those meetings because it was we were all there for the same purpose,
Right,
and
right.
so it was a big together in place. We might go eat yogurt afterwards and hang out. So it was we did
Right.
see that.
Right. Tell me about a time, maybe when you went to a bar and you met a famous blues master.
Yeah, when I was younger, before it was probably in the late 70s, I went down on 4th Street, and it was called the Boondocks Club. It was the Boondocks Club, and some friend of mine, I said, hey, I want to go out. Let's go out and do something. And they said, well, you ought to go downtown. They said, B.B. King is playing downtown tonight at I believe it was the Boondocks Club.
Yeah.
So I drove down there. At that time, downtown Austin, it was really an old warehouse district. Really was. And there was this old bar there. Didn't have any air conditioning. It was just wide and long. It had a bar. I remember walking down the right-hand side. And I went in there, and I was sitting around there drinking beer, and I was sitting with this guy at the end of the bar, and he was a great big guy, African-American guy, and he had on a wife beater style t-shirt, and we were sitting down there, and I said, man, do you think this show's going to be any good, He said, well, you might hang out and find out, And so I sat around there for a while, and then, it came time for the show started, and the guy was up there talking, and he said, now I want to introduce B.B. King. And by God, the guy was sitting beside me on the bar stool didn't get up and walk over there and get the guitar.
Wow.
And it was B.B. King. So I had been sitting there talking to him for about 45 minutes or an hour.
Wow.
And so that was my Hall of Fame with B.B. King.
Right, right.
And so it was pretty, I was just a young guy from far northwest Austin. We lived in the country, and I had no idea who B.B. King was.
Right, right.
And so, yeah, I did drank beer with B.B. King at that time, back in the late 70s.
Wow.
So it was pretty wild. And I knew several different musicians like W.C. Clark. He's from Austin, and I actually worked for his dad before I knew who W.C. Clark was.
Wow.
And so to come find out, I worked for that guy's dad. He was an African-American man, and I worked at his old garage when I was 15 years old. My dad took me out there to keep me out of trouble. He goes, you need to come out here and go to work after school trying to keep me out of trouble. And I went out there and dug some fence post holes and worked on some cars and cleaned some old parts bit for his dad. But that was actually W.C. Clark's dad.
Wow.
So, yeah, Austin used to be a small, safe place to go and hang out.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of different times I saw different musicians and stuff that I really didn't know who I was seeing at the time. Stevie Ray Vaughan used to play free in the parks, the recreation during the summer. We would go
Really?
see him, yeah.
Wow.
And we used to, the Fabulous Thunderbirds did, and there's just a lot of old bands we used to go see that, we really didn't know how famous they were.
Right.
We were just going for the party
Right.
and to check out the girls. So yeah, we did a lot of that.
Yeah. What about the Armadillo World headquarters? You ever go down there?
Oh yeah, when I was 15, I got my first motorcycle, and everybody was talking about the Armadillo World headquarters, and all the cool people were.
Yeah.
And so they were saying, oh yeah, the Armadillo World headquarters, Armadillo World headquarters. Well, I'd go down there, we didn't have a whole lot of money. It cost $1 or $2 to get in, but we knew how to work. And so I'd go over there and ask those guys, I'd say, hey, can I help y'all carry some of this stuff in? They'd have an old van or an old U-Haul or a box truck or something. They'd say, well, yeah, go ahead and carry some stuff in. They said, well, go on in, and they'd let me go on in the Armadillo World headquarters. And I did that a lot of times. I saw a lot of bands now that you're probably familiar with is ZZ Top and Little Feat. I remember seeing those, and it was $4 at that time, or $2 maybe to get in. I actually carried equipment in to get in to do that.
Wow.
And at that time, if you could get in down there, a pitcher of Pabst Blue Ribbon was $1.25. It was a big pitcher of beer. And so, you know, and then you could buy some nachos. So I think it was 50 cents for 3 of these great big tostado style nachos.
Wow.
And so it was pretty wild. And the banditos were the bouncers at that club.
Whoa.
So if you got in trouble, they opened up the door and literally threw you out by your pants and the back of your neck. And I saw them do it plenty of times.
Wow.
So
wow.
we used to go down there, but it was open air, marijuana, hash, LSD, you know, and the cops coming. They said, cops are coming, everybody put it out.
Wow.
You know, the smoke's just rising in the building, you know, and so it was a pretty wild thing. You know, it was short cutoffs on the girls and short tops, sandals or barefooted.
Wow.
A lot of hippies.
Wow.
You know, it was a different era in Austin at that time, you know.
Yeah. How do you see Austin changing? I mean, would you miss that part of Austin? A small town. It was a small town.
Austin was a small town. If you ran out of gas or had a flat tire or something, somebody you'd know who never even you knew or seen before would stop and help you. Maybe buy you some gas, give you a ride. You go to a store, they knew your family, or, you know, you had to be careful because they might know your dad or your mother, you know, because it was that small of a town. You know, it was just a college town at that time. And so, yeah, Austin has changed to where now Austin is truly a big city.
Yeah.
You know, it's overrun with just all kinds of different things that we had never seen before. You know, the only time I'd ever seen a homeless person, we used to sit around the tracks when I was a kid, you'd see a hobo riding on the train.
Wow.
And now it's very common to see hundreds and hundreds of homeless people as you drive around Austin. So, and everything's changed. The old neighborhoods that I used to know some guys that would rent houses for $60 a month. You know, those houses are $500,000 or $1 million homes now. So
Right.
the property is, you know, and so yeah, it's a totally different place. It's not as safe as it was, but at one time it was a really, really safe place. You know.
Wow.
So Austin has changed so much that it's different between black and white. You know, I try to compare it to where I live at now. You can't see it from where we're standing, but if you look back to the west, you just see the rolling hill country back there. It's just all trees now. But any other place, you know, you couldn't leave your truck parked outside or your car parked outside. So yeah, it's a different place altogether. So it really is.
That's cool. Cool. Well, tell me,